Robyn, welcome to our Learn to Listen series. It's such a joy to see your beautiful face. You look great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, it's
Thanks for
wonderful.
having me.
Absolutely. Such a joy. Well, I know you are a longtime dancer, choreographer, just director. I mean, there's so much of what you've contributed to the field, and I know your faith is foundational to what you're doing. So I'd love for you to share about your history in dance and anything that you want to share about what you're doing today. It would be beautiful to hear.
Sure. So my name's Robyn Goulette, and currently I am the artistic director of Saving Grace Dance Ensemble located in Southern New Hampshire. I also teach in Southern New Hampshire and a little bit in Massachusetts. So New England is my native home. It's my stomping ground. And everything I'm doing, I love right now. So I'm in a space in life where my schedule is where I want it. All of my efforts are being poured out where I just feel very excited and motivated and inspired. It's been a great time, all things considered, with COVID. Um, as we mentioned earlier offline, I've been able to have some performances live in a theater. I'm back in studio teaching. So my personal life has some just some trajectory and uh, motivation and movement. So things are slightly normal at this point. But going back to when I really came to the Lord, I was actually 25 and I was dancing professionally with a ballet company and also a modern company in Boston. And while I was at Granite State Ballet in Nashua, New Hampshire, there was a Christian dancer there, adult, who also was on staff. And I went through a tough time personally, and she was right there. And her community of her church and her community of women, they were dancers, non-dancers, just believers, really purposed to pray for me. And because of that, I had this amazing, I was all by myself in my townhouse, and the Lord just showed up. And it was really not inside a structured church service. I was brought up Catholic, and we were introduced to spirituality in a really nice way, but it wasn't forced, and we didn't attend regularly or anything like that. But it was such a miraculous event in my life. I was one person 1 minute. I read a few scriptures, and you'll probably chuckle. It was just from the dated aspect of it. It was called The New Birth, and it was a Kenneth Hagin track. And she shared that with some other, it was a journey. But that one moment I read the track, I prayed the prayer all alone, quietly. And something washed over me, and I had somewhat of a vision. I saw myself walk through a door. And when I opened that door, it was full of light, and I turned around in that vision and I shut the door behind me. And from that moment on, I had to keep asking people, so what happened to me? And then I ended up attending church and Bible studies, and I was so hungry to learn, hungry to understand what happened. So when things in the world, even in our church world, get confusing, I can always go back and there's a lot of sayings of, oh, it can't just be experience. But for me, when I really don't understand what's happening, I can go back to that moment and know that God had a plan and a purpose for me, and he spoke to me personally, and we had that interaction, and I was completely lost, and then I was completely found. So it was quite glorious in terms of my spiritual experience. And then I was able to learn what happened. And because I was dancing professionally at the time, I felt a lot of pressure to get involved in church worship, and I was very hesitant because I wanted to understand my salvation. I didn't want to start getting up on church stages because I wasn't sure where it fit. And being in a modern company that wasn't doing anything super inappropriate, but it wasn't faith-based, neither was my ballet work. So I was trying to understand beyond the utilitarian concept of, well, you're a dancer, so now you need to get up on the stage and take your faith and cram it in. And I was like, I need to step back. So I had a lot of support from my pastor and the leaders at that church saying, you know what, you take your time and just love God and love your life. So that was my launch. And it took me a long time, I have to truly admit, to understand where my dance career and my worship life, how they were going to mesh. And it was a little scary. And I had so much baggage and so much to go through in terms of healing. I needed to just hang out with the Lord, and I was filled with the Holy Spirit and just chowing down on God's word and being around some amazing women who were willing to mentor me. So that was my main focus for quite a few years. And eventually I started using my craft and my gift to choreograph church celebratory programs, like an Easter program, a Christmas program. And that's when the ball started rolling. And I would say in the early 2000s, our pastor got really into the small groups. And he said, hey, why don't you do a dance small group? And I thought, okay, kind of like you, if you like to knit, be in the knitting group. If you like to ride motorcycles, which is really big out here, people ride their motorcycle in the winter out here. It's crazy. They wear shorts all winter. You join the motorcycle club. And so I said, I would really enjoy that. And it was a mix of adults and youth. And we did the small group, and one thing led to another, Cynthia, and boom, I named it Saving Grace Dance Ensemble. And this is when the Lord started to speak to me. And this is what's really fun, just the spontaneity of the Lord said, I did not dance in the company. I just wanted to choreograph and set things. And a time came where he said, I want you to dance in this, because my dance career was over here. And then my church dance was over here. And he was saying, I want you to take the Robyn Goulette over here and put it over here. So, and in the middle of all that, I married Bill Goulette, worship director. So I was a performing arts director. He was the worship director, and the two of us just, flying high on all these performing arts things. So it was super fun. So when the Lord said, start dancing, and the impression I got was, and I want you to work this hard. I want you to build this. And so I did. And the more I danced, the more because I'm human, I cared about it a little more, because now I was in it. So that might sound a little narcissistic, but I was like, hey, this needs to be. So the standard just kept lifting and lifting. And then in 2012, I talked to my pastor and said, I am feeling led to do something a little different. I would like it to be all adults, and I would like to form a nonprofit and still call it Saving Grace, but not a church. We were kind of under that umbrella, which was wonderful. And it was very supportive. And with his full blessing, he said, go for it. Go for it. And so I did. And we put our articles of agreement together that same summer. And right around that time, I had attended Project Dance. And that's when I met all you guys. I met Steve Rooks, Catherine Gant, and Cheryl Cutlip. And that's when things really took off. And when I wanted to go from the small group to the full company, I was very nervous because I felt a little bad about saying, I don't want to work with the youth. I want to work with trained dancers that are 18 and over. So thankfully, some project dance people were willing to kind of mentor me through it, give me reassurance and say, you do what you feel led to do, because God will provide for those youth. You don't have to have that overdeveloped sense of responsibility. Just do what your path, your trajectory, which is becoming more and more specific, and don't be afraid of it. And so they really empowered me to do that, and these people were so generous with their time. And we've been going strong ever since. I'm happy to say this past season was our first season where we're giving dancers honorariums. So there's dancers who are getting paid and they are hired for each show. And I love it. I absolutely love it, because it's kind of, if you asked me, hey, what's your ideal dance company? I would say what I'm creating. That would be a dance company I would want to be in. So that's kind of the history of the dance company. And I've always taught ballet. I've always taught point. I've always been a guest choreographer the whole journey. And I've taught modern. And I've gone to the Limon intensives. And that's kind of my focus in terms of the contemporary work I'm doing. And yeah, I love it all. So
I'm so glad you said yes, because it's evident, because I've seen your work and seen you radiate when your work is being presented, and just so excited that where you're going now. And we do have this hope of the pandemic, decreasing. So there's more and more, hopefully, prayerfully increasing in the arts. And I know that you've got some big exciting thoughts and plans and dreams and hopes. So it's really, really wonderful. So in this whole journey, as you're talking about, really choosing to listen in your faith as you allowed that cultivating, marinating time, and then not just necessarily thinking that, I'm a longtime dancer, new Christian, all of a sudden there must be this marriage. I definitely respect that, and would love to hear more about your process and discipline of listening, the different ways God speaks to you. How have you cultivated that?
Sure. What was really exciting in my early, growing years as a believer was how much I loved to pray. And I would say, oh, good, Bill's going on a business trip. I'm going to sneak off to a million prayer meetings. Like, I loved it. I just loved praying because I saw results. So I would say just learning how to pray was my stepping stone to hearing from God. And I'm a journaler. I have so many journals. I'm a doodler. I write it down. I have whiteboards. I have paper everywhere. Once I write something down, that's my beginner, space. And it is my prayer. And the Lord and I have this relationship. Once I start writing, he's like, oh, okay. And I just really sense this wonderful spiritual, I just lift it up to him. So once I write it and say it, and I keep flipping back to my journals, I date everything. I'm very real with the Lord in that journal, so no one can read it. It's very private, and I'm very real. I try to be real with myself, and we have this really organic exchange. And my journal is the conduit. My journal is the portal that the conversations are and the dialogues and are happening. And that is when I sit and listen. I start writing, then I read what I wrote, and then I just sit there and think. And leave the next page empty. And then if I sense that I'm getting something from the Lord, I write it down. And then I even write down, ha, 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 that's too big of a dream. And then I look for, and then the Lord will say, well, here, I'll get a scripture. It's very spontaneous. And in my early years as a Christian, I had a hard time being spontaneous. I got a little bit serious and overly structured to the point where it was almost religious. Like I have to read this many paragraphs, and which is important. And I love the discipline of a reading plan and I'm all about it. But at a certain point, I had to let that go. And in 2012, when Saving Grace became a nonprofit inspirational dance collective, and we changed congregations, and there were like a huge change in a really loving way. I felt like the Lord had me by the shirt and he's like, we're going somewhere else. And I need you to let go of how you do things. So I felt a little lost because I was almost worshiping my own little plan. I was worshiping my own little structure. I was stuck, a little bit stuck. So it was really a little bit scary for me to kind of just be chill, and I just felt like a hippie. Whoa, where are we going? And I didn't like it at all. And I am a planner. So the Lord kind of removed that kind of funny neediness and has brought me since then into this really spontaneous, authentic time together. So that is where I spend time listening. And that is where I've learned to listen.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. And there's so many ways. And I appreciate, there's that visual and then that tactile way for you in that connection, which is great because I think other times we get these dreams and visions and it's this here, but it doesn't ever get put onto something more tangible that you can look back at. I know I've journaled through my life at different times, and you read something that you wrote 20 years ago. It's like, wow, it's amazing that how God brings back around that reassurance and his faithfulness, and it's a part of your life and a part of your story. So it's good, very good encouragement. So in your journey, as you've continued to cultivate these, that discipline of listening as a leader, how are you cultivating and have cultivated other areas of leadership skills, leadership qualities, just that discipline? What do you esteem, and what would you encourage and admonish others to implement into their life?
You know what? I honestly, all I can share is my experience, and if it encourages you, then I would be super pumped, as they say. Be yourself. And the way the Lord has created me, and I feel like he's unlocked a certain amount of joy and energy, and he just wants me to spread that and not be afraid to spread that. I would say you can't be needy, right? So as a leader, as an instructor, as a choreographer, as a director, what I've found is this is not about you all the time. And we're humans. And the neediness of affirmation and the needs as artists are tricky sometimes, because we want encouragement. Oh, did you like that? Oh, how many likes did I get? How many people are following me on Instagram? Let's just face it, we want all of that community. And every leader, I think, has a whole different set of needs. I can only share mine, which might be, I need to know I'm doing the right thing. I need to know this is anointed, things like that. When interacting with people, be a blessing, be generous, create opportunities for other people, open doors for other people. And one of the biggest passions that I know the Lord has put inside me, he's deposited that true desire to collaborate. And you have to be a team player, and you have to be more flexible than maybe you want to be. But it's fun and it's worth it. And as I get older, and this is parenting 101, when it's all about seeing other people succeed, and that's more exciting than self-success, and that is amazing. It's freeing, it's fun. So I would say, as a leader, I'm constantly trying to I want to be a living example. So as I'm leading, say, Saving Grace Dance Ensemble, I expect everyone to be in shape. I'm in class. I expect everyone to know the choreography. I practice at home. Make sure you're doing what you expect everybody else to do. And, as a mom, you see that too. If I expect my kids to make their bed, when they walk by my bedroom, my bed is made. And they always, if they see my bed unmade, they used to say, "Are you okay?" Or "Are you sick?" And I'm like, "No, I just running late today." But I feel like that is a great lesson in life, is be yourself, be real, be authentic, and do what you expect others to do, So that diligence is exciting to me, but really important.
It's so good. What's that consistency? What I'm hearing from you, that part. So good. And when you get into habit and routine, which as dancers, we get that down, we know how to go through the process of the methodology of a class and systematic. So those are good things. And then it can become an error, like you were articulating early, when it becomes so confining that that's your religion, and you don't have the freedom. So it's finding that place of having consistency and discipline, but also not losing the joy in that process, or the purpose. Why am I doing this? Why am I instilling this for me? Or why am I instilling this for my dancers, or for my family, or my peers, or whatever that might be? And I think it comes back to motive, right? Motivation of why we're doing what we're doing, which is always a good thing to put in check. All right, God, check it. Check my motivation. Why am I doing what I'm doing? That's so great. So I've seen your choreography, and there's a lot of creativity. I'd love to hear about your creative practice and ways that you, are engaged in that creative manner.
My creative process is really fun, I have to say, because the more, I keep using that word chill, but I've just chilled out and said, the Lord's going to show you. So I just kind of start with, what am I going through? Like, what is everyone has a personal message throughout their lives at every moment. There's always some theme, I really believe, in people's lives as God is moving. And it's different for each one at different times, but for me, there's always something going on, and he's always working something in me that he wants me to let out and let people see that as an artistic work. So when I'm approaching a new season, like spring season's coming up, I just start praying. I start journaling. Ideas just come to me. And I think the most exciting thing I've discovered and explored is allowing the Lord to speak to me on my way to the grocery store. I'm not going to sit there and wait. It's just about my day, and he'll use other people, the cashier at the register, other artists that I collaborate with, other dancers, things like that. And so typically I have a theme, or I'll find a piece of music, or, he'll just give me this spontaneous, this is what I want you to do. And so, for example, this time last year, I had a piece of music and it would bring me to this amazing spiritual journey of people that I've lost recently, over the last decade. And, it was the same three people in this vision. It was my dad, my golden retriever, and one of my students that passed away when she was 15. And it's like, why do you keep showing me them every time I hear this music? And, he had me by the shirt. I'm trying to show you something. So I took that music and I kept praying. I journaled. And then one thing led to another. Myself and my friend Jerry Hunt from New York, he and I ended up working with Steve Rooks, and Steve set a duet on us last January. And it's beautiful and I love it. And it's called The Guardian. And it's all themed in how God is always guiding us. He has us covered no matter what, even when we don't understand things. So Jerry playing the male role was just a wonderful illustration for the viewers. And for this spring season, I'm taking that and I'm expanding it. And now that is a movement, one of 4. So we're taking the guardian concept of God's got you, and we can trust him, into a 4 movement piece. And I just said, why don't we do that? And this all happened in the journaling and the thinking and the meditating and the waiting and the, it's a little bit like the way I cook. I don't really measure. I just throw stuff in and hope it tastes good.
Me too. True confession.
So Jerry, who plays the guardian, basically, is going to set one of the movements. And Steve is going to set a sequel to our duet. And my dancers will be part of it. Instead of it just being Jerry and me, it's going to be a group of, 12 of us. So I love taking something small, and it's almost like you add water to it and it expands. So that is my process. So sometimes it's music first, movement next. Sometimes it's movement, then music. Many times when I'm creating phrases for my modern classes, those end up being a big part of the foundational movement themes, just because I'm on that track. So I just use my modern classes to create. So yeah, that's my process.
That's
and
good.
I still use a notebook, and I never write big enough, and it's messy, and I have my glasses, and process really, Cynthia, has not changed for like 25, 30 years. I've been choreographing since day one.
Yeah.
When I was at the conservatory, and I had some comp classes, and they were really tough.
Yeah.
Well, you're in a university program. They're breaking you down, trying to get you to your real self. And I didn't even know I wanted to do that. They just said, oh, you should keep exploring that. And then because I had to choreograph all these dances for these recitals, my work started to be seen, and I enjoyed it.
That's beautiful.
I didn't even try. I didn't say, oh, I'm going to be a choreographer today. Like, it just sort of morphed through my daily work.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think there's such a connection when I talk to some friends who are creatives, and some of their outlet, like you do all this writing and a way to communicate. It's this prolific way of articulating. And so it's going to come out. And so people who journal sometimes end up being, choreographers, just because it's just got to keep flowing in just a different demonstration and a different medium, as opposed to on your computer writing it out, that it's on a body. So yeah, it makes sense. It definitely makes a lot of sense. And So you have done work in, we know it's very biblically founded, and your faith is just the basis for what you're doing and why you're doing what you are. But it's fun to know that you're going into different kinds of venues, that your work is going into secular or marketplace venues. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about, maybe what God's doing in and through Saving Grace, and what he's doing out there in the world today as you're seeing it and as you're experiencing it through your own artistry and through the company.
Sure. There was a time right around when I started the nonprofit in 2012, and the very specific purpose statement and things like that were really deposited in my heart. And the number one thing was bring light into darkness. Do not be afraid. I want you out in the marketplace more than any place. So as much as I love performing in churches and presenting my work in a church arena, we're really in secular venues more. And I really believe it's because that's where God wants us. And we've had a couple of interesting experiences dancing in a couple churches. We got kicked out one time, and I was like, wow, you just never know what's going to happen. It was the most silent ride home I ever had. I just didn't even know what happened. I can laugh now, but it was very upsetting. And I realized, you know what? It's okay. Just enjoy yourself, do your work. Not everyone's going to love you. That's just the way it's going to go. So with that intention of bring light to wherever I call you, don't be afraid if it seems a little bit dark or overly secular. So that's been really freeing. That's been super great. And in terms of Saving Grace and our infrastructure, when people ask me, when believers say to me, so what's your company like? The way I describe it is we are an in-reach. So when people sort of interview and apply to be a dancer with Saving Grace, the requirements are, please read over our purpose statement, which is to create productions that promote and reflect the teachings of Jesus Christ. That is really our purpose statement. If you can align yourself with that and participate fully, knowing I just lead a prayer right before rehearsal and after class. I don't press anybody else to pray. I don't say, hey, I'm going to get up in your life. So, personal, I ask them some personal things, but I don't get it. I don't have a list of, you have to be in a church. You have to, blah, blah, blah. You have to not live with your boyfriend. You have to, I'm just throwing that out there, but I just make sure they're okay with the environment that I'm going to provide. I provide the environment, and along the way, they learn more about God. I have some pillars, some people that are very strong in their faith that are in my group, and they kind of hold the structure up with me and are a serious support system spiritually. And then other people come in and they don't even know where they are spiritually. And they get to kind of explore that and discover that as we go. And so it's been prophesied over me many times that I would be one to stretch the boundaries of a Christian dance company, of a performing arts group and effort. And not that I even want to, I just know this is what the Lord wants me to do. He wants every door open. Discount no one. And the only thing that I would ever say is, if you are against this purpose statement, this is not the dance company for you. So I'm very protective at the same time of who is there and how we operate, but we're upbeat, we are supportive, and we create community. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, I think that is a great model of how Jesus was the salt and light, and he didn't hang out with just others like-minded like him. It really was an intention to be love and light, and brought people in along the journey. Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, in closing, is there anything that you would like to add or share, something that's on your heart, or just an admonishment or encouragement?
I feel like I've shared just about everything I would want to share through your questions, so thank you. And I would just encourage everybody, go for it.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to have a show outside, or don't be afraid, just go for it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. And my other personal banner has been, don't wait for an invitation. Sometimes you are the invitation.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We need to remember that when we have the Spirit of God dwelling in us, there's always an open invitation to commune with him, but also an open invitation for us to allow him to radiate through us in whatever way that is purposed by him. So that's beautiful. Well, you're doing a great job. And I just encourage you as we're entering into 2021, and bless you. And I'm excited for what God has in store for you and for the company.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend, for joining me today. So appreciate it this time.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.